back instead of reaching them forward. You might want to pad out the space between your bum and your heels. You might want to try a variation, try a couple of options and see which ones feels nicer tonight. You can always use a block for your head as well. Remember, if it's not that comfortable, for your head to come down to the mat. So wriggle around, adjust, take a few moments to find your comfortable version of child's pose, and then just begin to set that intention. So every time we come onto our mat, we have that intention, don't we, of just arriving on our mat, into our body, and into our practice. So for the next 60 minutes, we will set aside our phones, any news, any media, anything that we might have been thinking about today, anything that we've got to do later. And just allow your nervous system really to settle down and reset. So just beginning to follow that wave of the breath in and out through the nose. And begin to slip into your yin zone. So we let the past fade away, we let the future fade away, and we just come into it right here, right now, on our mats. And then we let the wave of the breath lengthen and deepen. Begin to soften around the base of your neck. Release your jaw. And soften your abdomen as well. Just use your exhales to start to let go of tension. So as you follow the waves of the breath, just using the waves to relax you. Sometimes it's quite easy, isn't it? We come into the practice and we can kind of slip straight into that zone. Other times it doesn't work like that, does it? We get onto the mat and our mind is busy and all those thoughts are still racing around. Doesn't matter, just be with how it is. Allow things to settle in their own time. The Buddhists call that the monkey mind, don't they? It's that constant chitter chatter that we have going on in the background. So if you find that you're not settling straight away, just be with whatever's there. And just allow the practice to settle you down. Okay, on our next inhale, we'll just slowly, gently make our way up to all fours, coming to a tabletop position. And then when we get to our tabletop position, wrists below the shoulders, knees beneath the hips, just take a couple of cat-cows really slowly with the breath. Inhale, tummy drops down, chin lifts, sit bones tilt, and then exhale, navel draws up, tailbone tucks and chin tucks. Just doing about another 3, moving with your breath, inhaling forward, exhaling to come back. And if you're comfortable to close your eyes, and then you can start to really tune in to the sensations that you have in your body, whatever's there today. Okay, we'll come to neutral and then tuck the toes, send the hips up and back. And come into a nice soft downward facing dog, and then just moving in whatever way you want to there. Again, feel what's happening in your body tonight. Are you tense? Are you stiff? Do you need to move? Maybe you can explore your downward facing dog, keeping everything a little bit soft though, so we're not really looking for shape or form, we're looking for sensation. How does it feel? Start to move maybe, or not. Okay, on our next inhale, we'll take the right leg up and then exhale, step it forward. So I'm coming straight into a dragon pose, and I know how much we love this. Okay, so right foot steps forward and then we drop the left knee down. Use whatever you need to. Pad out the left knee if you need to. Double up your mat. Take the right foot a little bit further to the right, and then both arms on the inside of the right foot. And then maybe you'll use blocks here, or a bolster even, or your cushions. Maybe you'll stay up on the hands. Maybe you'll come down to your elbows. Maybe you'll do a combination of those things with your props. So just finding a variation of this that you can begin to settle into. And I know I'm a stuck record here as well, but just remember that we only go in to find our first edge initially. So don't go in so deeply that it starts to feel really intense too quickly. If you're very flexible in the hips, then you can keep the toes tucked on the left foot, just to keep a little bit of activity, so you're not just hanging out into the joints, because that happens to those of us who are very flexible. You could always let the right knee drop out and come onto the outside edge of the right foot as well if you wanted to do that variation. So again, whatever feels nice in your body, begin to settle down. And if you find that your mind is still a bit busy, then you can just follow the wave of your breath. Maybe if you feel that your edge is softened, you can come a little bit deeper, but maybe not. So again, what feels appropriate? It takes about 90 seconds, I think, to really sort of find that place where you can let go. So you should be able to let go of those grips, let go of the tension around about now. Just making sure you're not holding where you don't need to. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths here. And then on an inhale, pressing the floor away to come up if you've come down. And then we're going to come straight into Sleeping Swan. So right foot walks over to the left. I think we're all okay with this, aren't we? You can always do the reclined version if you want to on your back, that sort of thread the needle. So if your knees don't like this, remember to do that version instead. And we lay the outside of the right calf down. If that's really intense, you can bring the foot a bit closer to the left knee. And then reach back through the left leg. Just that little check over your shoulder, make sure you're not reaching that leg out to the side. Take a moment to let your hips settle there. Pad out that right hip if you need to, so if it's way up, you can put a block there or a blanket or something. And then when you're ready, you can start to ease your way forward, to your degree, of course. So when we come down into our Sleeping Swan, the left hip is moving down and the right hip, any amount moving back, chest is forward. And you can make it more intense if you want to here. So if you're quite comfortable here, you can tuck your left arm under the right, come onto the left shoulder, down onto the left-hand side of the face, and maybe do a bit of a twisted version if you want to, but just whatever feels appropriate. So I've been swatting up today on fascia, this connective tissue, and learning all about its properties. And the three main properties of our fascia or connective tissue, and this is the tissue that basically covers everything. It covers our muscles, it is in our joints, it's beneath the skin, it's like a super highway of nutrients, of cells, and it enables all our muscles to glide over one another, and it keeps everything healthy. It keeps that shock absorption that we have in our joints as well. And the three properties are viscosity and elasticity and plasticity. And in our Yin practice, we're working on the plasticity. It's actually possible to remodel all of your connective tissue through a practice like this. So all of those postural imbalances that we tend to build over our lifetime through bad habits, from injury, from various things, we can actually remodel through our practice like this. I don't know if you can hear the wolf howling in his sleep. Apologies for that. So just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then we're going to push the mat away to come up. So just come up nice and gently, as always, removing that. If you have support under the right hip, remove it. Take the weight into the right hip. Left leg comes all the way around. And then we'll come, stretch it straight out in front of you, and we'll come into half butterfly. So we're going to target the back of the left leg now, so hamstrings and calves. Those of us that have bad backs might find that the half butterfly, when you come forward over the left leg, you feel it maybe more in your low back. So if that's the case, you feel it more in your low back than you do in the back of your leg, then you can always come into that half frog position with the leg instead if you want to. So that would be taking the right knee out to the side. So it's a bit like a deer pose with the right leg. And then you come over the left leg from there. And it just tends to target the back of the leg for some of us a little bit more. So up to you. You can do the half butterfly or you can do that half frog variation instead. Aiming to feel the sensation mostly in the back of the leg and not in the low back. So up to you. Choose your variation. And then we'll inhale, take the arms up. And then exhale, come over that left leg to your degree. And then supporting yourself in any way that you need to there with blocks or your bolster, cushion. Hopefully not feeling the sensation in your low back, really. Really just the back of the left leg. And then begin to settle in there. Yeah, so remodeling the fascia, this property of plasticity. Really, really interesting stuff for someone like me anyway. But over the period of about 18 to 24 months, you can reset your whole body. So patience and just keep practicing. And the changes will come. It takes a lot longer than building muscles and even repairing bone. But it can be done. And as I've said before, there's a lot of evidence now that shows a lot of the chronic pain is related to issues with the fascia as opposed to skeletal or muscle problems. When we have an injury, we injure the connective tissue as well. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then pushing the floor away to come up from however deeply you'd come into that. And then I'm going to come into half Virasana. Now I know again for some of us with knee issues this pose isn't happening. So if we're coming into half Virasana, the right calf comes back and the knees come as close together as you can, and you might take that right calf flesh out of the way. If your knees really don't like this, even though it is really good for our knees, then you could sit up on a block. So you could raise the level of the hips, maybe 2 blocks, and that might make it bearable, but it might not still. So even if it doesn't on a block or cushion or bolster, then you could, if you wanted to, come back into that half butterfly position, because we're going to come back this time anyway. So if you wanted to take that shape with the legs instead, you could. So half saddle, half Virasana or whatever, and then we're just going to come back, lean back, come onto your hands. Maybe leaning back a little bit of the way is enough. Maybe you can come back onto your elbows. If you're going for more of the reclined tree type of pose, you probably might come all the way back. Sometimes nice to use the bolster to come back, even if you can come all the way back. Sometimes it's nice to just support yourself and come back onto the bolster. So again, find your variation for that. Find what works. And then settle in. So even though it might not feel like it's doing your knee an awful lot of good in this position, if you're in the half saddle or half Virasana, being like this for a longer period of time stimulates the connective fluid in your knee joint. And it stimulates the fibroblasts, which are the cells that are involved in remodeling the matrix of the connective tissue or fluid. So just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then just gently easing your way up from whichever variation you've come into. And then we'll stretch that right leg away. Both legs come straight out in front, and just move the knees if you need to. Have them up and down. Point and flex the feet. Do whatever. Okay, this one is especially for you, Angie. You're going to curse me for this. I haven't done it for recently, actually a few weeks. First, we're going to bend the left knee, flex the foot, place the left ankle over above the right knee. Okay, caution, again, those of us that have got issues with the knees, you might just want to come straight into a cross legs with the left shin in front. Otherwise, we're going to bend at the right shin, come into fire log pose. Again, adjust it if you need to. So if you really don't like this and it's really intense, then do the cross legs variation instead. Or you can support that left knee. Keeping a little bit of flexion in this left foot should help you to support that knee a bit. But if it's really not good for you, then do the cross legs instead. Okay, wherever you are, take the arms up, inhale. And then exhale, come forward to your degree. And if you can use something to support your head, then support your head. And we can target the same area by coming forward in a cross-leg position. So just a little bit less intense, isn't it? Go for whatever suits your body. And if you find this sensation really intense, just try to stay with the waves of the breath. Just check that you're not gripping into that left hip. Release your jaw. Relax your throat. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then we'll push the floor away with the hands to come up. Really, really gently. And then unhooking if you're in the full fire log. And we'll make our way straight over to tabletop position, so all fours. And when you get to all fours, just take the knees a little bit further back so that you're almost in a sort of supported plank position. And then we'll just do some hip circles. So a little bit of a rebound, stretching into the hips. Again, just moving in whatever way feels nice here. And then when you're ready, tucking the toes, sending the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Nice soft downward facing dog, but moving there if you need to. Just stretching out, pedaling, whatever. And then we'll do our low flying dragon on the other side. So inhale, left leg up. Exhale, step it forward. Dropping the right knee, padding it out. And then finding your dragon. So the left foot comes a bit further to the left, arms on the inside. Settle in, use blocks, bolsters, stay up on the hands. Do what variation works for you, and it might be different on this side, mightn't it? So you might feel different today, you might be more stiff than usual, so just do whatever. Remember, if you're very open in the hips and it's easy, then keeping the toes tucked on the right foot. Maybe you want to let the left knee drop out, come onto the outer edge of the foot. There's all those slightly different variations, isn't there? So in many ways, our yin practice is harder even than our strong yang practice, isn't it? Because the yang practice is quite like the rest of our life, busy, active, strong, moving from one thing to the next. But when we practice yin, we just have to stay with whatever's there, don't we? We can't avoid, we can't move on to the next thing so quickly. So just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then just pushing the floor away to come up if you've come down. And then we'll find our Sleeping Swan. So that left foot comes over to the right. Do the version on your back again. If you don't like it with the knees, you can do the reclined version. Outer left shin comes down, right leg reaches away. Check that you haven't reached that leg right out to the side. Move the left foot closer to the hip if you find it really intense. Pad out the left hip if you need to. And then ease your way forwards. So that outer right hip is moving down. And you can make it more intense again by tucking the right arm under, coming down onto the outside of the right shoulder. And if you're very, very open in the hips, just tucking the toes on the right foot. And then settling in. And if you find your mind just wandering off down an alleyway or making a story, see if you can come back to the breath. Following the waves of the inhales and the exhales. So the Dhammapada, a Buddhist text, says that one can conquer 1,000 battles, but is he who conquers himself is the greatest warrior. And it's talking about mastering our minds, isn't it? Quieting that monkey mind, as they call it. And our yin practice helps us to learn to just control what's going on in our mind. And choosing the thought patterns. Choosing to step back. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then pushing the mat away to come up really gently, slowly. Removing whatever you had, if you have something, padding the left hip. Taking the weight into the left hip. Right leg comes all the way in front. And then we're straight into half butterfly. But again, if you find that when you come forward in this position, you feel it more in your back, then you could do the other leg position. So it's a bit more like that sort of deer pose leg position. You might want to support your left knee there. And then when you come forward over the right leg, you might feel it more in the leg. It's an individual thing, so it's up to you, whatever. I don't want to really feel too much strain in the low back here. And taking the arms up, inhale, and then exhale, coming forward over the right leg to your degree, and that might not be far. If you can support your head, then support your head. And then settle in. And let go. So it can be interesting to observe the type of thought patterns you have in a practice like this. when you do start to wander off. And the more that we practice controlling that, being aware of that, the more we can actually rewire our brains. So just like we have the plasticity in the connective tissue, the fascia, we have neuroplasticity too, and we're capable of rewiring our brain and our thought processes. Things that we repeatedly do become habits, don't they? Thought patterns, movement patterns. Rewire, remodel. Frustration. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then just pushing the floor away to come up. And then half Virasana, or if you really don't like that, you can always sit up on blocks as well if you want to for that, remember. Move the calf flesh out of the way. Raise the level of the hips, it might make it work. If it's really not going to work, then come into a reclined tree instead. You can bring that left heel, left foot to the inside of the right thigh. And you might want to just lean back onto your hands a little bit. You might find coming onto your elbows is okay. It might be very different on this side. Coming back onto the bolster or your cushion is a nice option as well. Just do what feels nice for you tonight, nice in your body. And you might find that one side is much, much, much harder as well if you're doing the Virasana or straddle. It's usually the case, isn't it? Relax your jaw. Relax deeply behind your eyes. And let go anywhere that you're gripping. and just about another 2 or 3 breaths wherever you are. And then just easing your way up really gently. And stretching the left leg away. And then moving the knees, pointing and flexing, doing whatever you need to. Okay, and then fire log. I know how much we love fire log. Okay, we'll bend the right knee, flex the foot, place the ankle over above the right knee. Again, if you know that your knees are an issue or you really don't like this, come straight to cross legs, right shin in front. Otherwise, bend the left knee up and come into fire log. So we're aiming, or square pose, we call this, I think in Yin, they call it square. So it's sort of aiming to have the shins as parallel with the mat, front of the mat as you can. But obviously, I don't want any discomfort in that knee. You can support it if you need to as well. You might find that you start off with that knee really high up and it does gently ease its way down. But do the cross legs variation if in any doubt at all about your knee. Okay, and then inhale, take the arms up, find length. And then exhale, come forward to your degree, and it might not be very far. Doesn't matter, remember. What matters is how you feel, not how far you're coming into the pose. Start to settle in and relax. Soften around the base of your neck. Relax the back of your tongue. Just find all of those places that you grip and let them go. Just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then pushing the floor away to come up. Sorry, Angie. And then releasing and hooking. Take the legs both straight out in front of you. Bring the knees up and down, point or flex, or move in whatever way that you want to. Okay, we're going to come straight into Dragonfly now. Especially for Leslie. You don't like this one. Okay, you can always sit on a block for this as well. You can always sit on a blanket as well. Sometimes just bringing the level of the hips up makes it a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more bearable. So do that if you want to. Taking the legs about 90 degrees, flesh away from the sit bones, and then taking the arms up, inhale, and then exhale, coming forward to your degree. And then again, if you can use something to support your head, then do, even if that means building a tower. So we're now targeting inner thighs, as I'm sure you can feel. Really want you to be feeling anything unpleasant in your low back though. So if you need to build a high tower to support yourself, then do. And this is another one of those poses where we seem to get preoccupied with how far we can come into it. Just try to stay away from that way of thinking. And be with how it feels in your body. Even if you think you're relaxed here, just go back and check that you're not gripping, holding. And maybe you'll find you can just softly ease your way a bit deeper. Just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then just gently pressing the floor away, come up. And then bring the legs back together. We'll come into another forward bend. So remember, modify these if you need to. If you have a bad back, you might want to support the back of the knees. You can roll up your blanket and just have a little bit of support behind the knees. You can take the feet a little bit further apart as well. You could raise the level of the hips a little bit as well. So again, do what you need to make it feel more comfortable. Caterpillar pose, as we call this in Yin. So legs straight out in front, inhale, take the arms up. And then exhale, come forward. And then either take the ankles, shins, feet. If you can support your head, support your head. And then relax. And pick. Relax your jaw. Relax deeply behind your eyes. Okay, just about another 2 or 3 breaths. And then gently press the floor away to come up. That was intense for me. And then we'll come down onto our backs, but keep your block handy. So whatever type of block you have. If you have the big, flat, rectangular ones, you might want to have a couple handy. Okay, so just make your way nice and gently down onto your back. And I'm just going to come into a supported bridge, just as a little bit of a counter pose. If your back is really sensitive, maybe don't come up too high with your block. So if you have one of these smaller, fatter blocks, you might want to choose about the medium level, medium height. Press into the feet, lift the hips up, and then you're supporting the sacrum. So that bony place at the bottom of the back is where you have your block. Okay, you might want to try it long ways or vertically. So it depends on how you feel. It might feel nicer for you either way. Try both. And then if you have the sort of bigger, more rectangular blocks, then you might want to use a couple. But then hands could either rest on your tummy or down by your side. And then start to relax there. Okay, as you know, you can straighten your legs away here if you want to. But if your back is an issue, I wouldn't do that. It can be quite intense for the low back. Just using the waves of your breath to relax. Okay, if you want to stay in your supported bridge, of course you can. Otherwise, we're just going to press into the feet, just lift up enough to remove whatever you have there, and then let your low back come down. And just take a moment there, just to let everything settle. Just observe how that feels. And then picking the feet up, take the hands and just place them over the knees and let the weight of the legs rest into the hands. Just take a moment there, then you might just want to bring the knees back and forth. And then if it doesn't feel too intense for your back, bring the knees closer in. Give yourself a little bit of a squeeze or a back massage. And then we will find our way to Savasana. So just coming to lying flat, or having the knees bent, or using your cushion or something below the knees just as some support. That's another nice choice. And then start to relax. Relaxing right at the back of your tongue. And deeply behind your eyes. Deeply into your abdomen. just bringing your awareness back to your breath, and then thinking about moving the fingers and toes and then gently moving them. Taking a nice long full inhale, have a stretch. Whatever stretch feels nice, arms up overhead or bringing the knees in. Whatever, as always, whatever you feel that you need to do. And then we'll just gently roll over to the left-hand side. Just take a moment there. And then easing your way all the way back up to find seated in any seated position. So cross legs or not, whatever. And then we'll bring the hands together. Just taking a moment, relax your shoulders, soften your facial muscles. Just see if you can connect to the whole of your body. Feeling any sensation anywhere. Just taking a nice long full inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Namaste. Thank you. Happy Wednesday. I hope we enjoyed our yin tonight. I wonder if you heard Tin howling.
That was hilarious, Caroline.
He only does that when he's asleep. Never when he's awake.
Oh, he's gorgeous.
Hope we enjoyed anyway. Sorry for
great.
I'll see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.